We were married for almost 10 years before we had our first daughter, Jen. And we were clear across the country from our families.
I was pretty empty. I wasn't walking with God, and my life wasn't going about as I thought it should. And my brother called me. He started ministering to me on the phone. And at that time, there was a realization that, listen, I needed God. I needed, him back in my life. And of course, at the time, my wife wasn't born again. But later on, I had the honor of leading her to the Lord. And
it was a life changer.
It was a life changer, yeah.
And when we moved back to West Virginia, church was our life. At that time, we went Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night for church, and then there were always activities, and whatever there was, and when the doors were open, we were at church.
Yeah.
So that's actually how we got to meet Pastor John, because at the time he was a new traveling minister and he would speak there, lots of times.
And during that process, we became, good friends.
The first thing I noticed about John and Kathy is that wherever they were actually the fabric and the backbone of the church. People often think in terms of ministry calling is what I do. But the reality of it is the broader calling upon people's lives is to fulfill the place Jesus has for them. John and Kathy served in what the Bible refers to as the ministry of helps in a way that is unparalleled. And they've been a part of us, helping us when we traveled, when we were missionaries, when we started the church, when we asked everybody to stop supporting us financially, and everybody did, except the Spencers. They continued to do it when we started the church. And they helped in every imaginable way, so much so that when they came here, I almost considered them like a de facto staff member.
At the time, we met on Sundays at the Cinema World. We met on Wednesdays at Fresh Air Camp. And then the third meeting place of the church was our house. And oftentimes they would have youth events, activities, sleepovers, and Pastor Larry would come over and they would move all the furniture up against the walls and they would do worship. They would, just have a great time in the Lord.
Yeah.
Well, John and Kathy, man, just incredible people. So I knew that they had worked with the youth, and they had two daughters that were in youth group. So we got to connect right away, and they were just so generous. The beauty of John and Kathy was, man, they were always supportive in anything I would ask, and I asked them big stuff. They were always willing to go the extra mile, from buying food, just to hanging out, to driving places, and so they were even though we had youth ministry, they were a part of the team. They were, outstanding, just representation of Jesus. So they touched a lot of kids' lives in this church.
I was a school teacher for many years, and my heart was always here. And so I helped out in the office doing whatever they needed, and then they asked me if I would stay on. So I just quit teaching and moved on over. And for 20 years, I loved going to work, still loved it the last day I worked.
As for me, I was working in industry at the time. Our company offered people to early retire, and lo and behold, I think I was retired 3 weeks and came on staff at that time, developed the connection groups, which was the precursor to our small groups now.
I can remember when Pastor John first mentioned to John, I'd like for you to start this freedom group, here in the church. And of course, we loved every minute of it.
Over this past, 7 years in Freedom, we've put about 3,000 people through the curriculum. And once people went through it, they were hooked. And they knew that, this made a difference in their life, and they wanted to make a difference in other people's lives as well.
When I first started Freedom, I remember walking into the classroom, and it was clear instantly that this group was not a group of judgment. And it was made clear by the fact that Pastor John and Kathy were so open. And for me, they're more than just my Freedom group leaders. They became spiritual mentors, spiritual parents. I honestly can say that I wouldn't be sitting in this chair without their influence.
As I look back over our lives as Christians, I am just so grateful to God that he had his hand upon us,
Sure has.
that he brought us through the things that he's brought us through victoriously, that he knit our hearts together with Pastor John and Michelle, and that we have had the opportunities we have had to serve the kingdom of God.
And the journey's not over. We're still here. We're still
That's
kicking.
right.
We're still involved, and we'll continue
And we'll
to
still be
serve
serving.
until we take our last breath.